When you're being indecisive, what does that mean about your relationship with life? What assumptions are you operating under? That's what this episode is about. You're listening to Pure Light, where we explore how you can believe in yourself and be happy with who you are so that you feel worthy of your craziest dreams and confident in your power to make them happen. My name is Ailey. I'm a coach, writer, and Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. This is episode 106. So in the last couple of episodes, I've been talking a lot about indecision, about how to break the cycle of indecision, as well as some of the costs of indecision. So this episode is about some of the assumptions that are inherent when we get stuck in a state of indecision. So when you are in that state, like when you cannot decide something, there are usually different ideas circling around in your mind. There are probably stories that you're telling yourself that justify why you shouldn't do something and why you should at the same time. So it's coming from both sides. There's the part of you that's like, yes, do it. The part that's excited to go ahead and loves the possibilities that it sees. And then there's the part of you that's like, oh my God, no, what if something goes wrong? And that's the part that's focused on what you can lose and all the bad stuff that might happen. And both those parts exist if you're in a state of indecision. Because if either of them didn't, it would be a clear yes or a clear no. So in Kundalini yoga theory, there are different aspects of the mind. The positive mind is the expansive part that's open to change and excited about possibilities. The negative mind is the protective part that's concerned about potential problems and dangers. And the neutral mind is the aspect of the mind that looks at input from everything. So the positive mind, the negative mind, your intuition, your body, absolutely everything. And it gives you guidance on what to do based on everything it's taken in. So if your neutral mind is weak, you can get stuck going back and forth between the positive mind and the negative mind and end up in a state of indecision, which is kind of like a cocoon in a way. Like it's a safe place to hang out because it's safer to stay in that state of indecision than it is to take a risk where you might actually lose something. So when you're being indecisive, it means that you don't believe that the potential gain is worth taking the risk. If you knew that things would be okay, no matter what the outcome was, like no matter whether it was the result you wanted or not, you would choose to move forward and make a decision either way. So when you don't, you're basically acting in a way that says that you don't trust that life will unfold in a way that supports you. And you don't trust that you'll be able to do what you need to do to be okay. So there's an underlying assumption there that things will not be okay or that you will not be okay. So that's the assumption that you're operating under when you stay in a state of indecision. It's as if you're assuming I'm not going to be okay or things are not going to be okay, like something is going to go wrong here. So it's worth asking yourself, like, what exactly may not be okay here? Is my survival actually at threat? And if it is, listen to that, absolutely. Like, do what you need to do to make sure that your life isn't at risk. But if it isn't about your survival, ask yourself, like, what is this really about? And more importantly, is this how I want to live my life? Under the assumption that bad things are going to happen? Because it's kind of like driving with your foot hovering over the brake instead of actually trying to get somewhere. I watched a talk recently where Kamal Ravikant was talking about a dinner he had with a friend. So she almost died when she was 24 from a heart attack. And actually she did die. So she was pronounced dead for 7 minutes, but then somehow she came back and went through a pretty intense recovery process from the sounds of it. And after that experience, whenever she wanted something in life, it would just appear. So, when she wanted love, the right person appeared and, he ended up becoming her husband. And stuff with her career, when she wanted that, it would also just kind of evolve naturally. So everything was just kind of coming to her. So this guy was like, how do you do it? And she leans forward and says, well, what if this is heaven? Because she died. She doesn't have proof that she's not actually on the other side. And if you think about what it's supposed to be like in heaven, you're supposed to be able to have whatever you want, like this blissful, wonderful, limitless experience. So she's been living on Earth with the belief that everything she wants, she can have. Everything she wants to be, do, or have, she can be, do, or have. And this ultimately comes back to how you relate to life. So do you believe life is happening in your favor? Do you believe that you can have what you want? Do you believe that you can be what you want? There's that quote from Einstein: "The most important decision we make is whether we believe we live in a friendly or hostile universe." So when you're constantly avoiding risk, you're assuming the universe is hostile. You're assuming it's out to get you, or at the very least, it's not going to support you in you having what you want. And if you think back to what I talked about a couple of episodes back in terms of how you relate to life, there are probably a few different spectrums. So one is the spectrum from being passive in terms of how you relate to life to being active and co-creating with the universe. And another spectrum is hostile at one end and friendly at the other. And there's probably some kind of connection between those two. If you think it's a hostile universe, it's more likely that you're going to be passive in an effort to protect yourself from all the stuff that could go wrong. But if you think it's friendly, all of a sudden, it becomes a lot easier to be active and co-create with the universe, and potentially even experience heaven on earth. Life wants to expand you and expand through you. So the question is, will you allow it? More to come on this. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, may you be guided by your light.